Let's take a hard look at global warming. This pie chart comes from the EPA and it details our carbon dioxide problem. Basically, 76% of our problem is the natural gas CO2. The next graph comes from NASA and it shows Earth has never been above 300 parts per million of CO2 for a very long time. But around 1950, that started to change, and CO2 began to spike. Well, that spike means Earth is broken. Our civilization is producing too much carbon dioxide that Earth cannot convert back into oxygen. Well, what does one of our most famous scientists say about that spike? Well, Stephen Hawking says this. He calls it runaway climate change. The professor is warning us that we can heat the ocean up so much that it will release large amounts of carbon dioxide from the ocean floor. That carbon dioxide is like putting a plastic bag over Earth that traps the heat. The heat has nowhere to go, and the temperature of Earth will just keep rising and rising and rising in an irreversible effect. We can literally turn Earth into a Venus with a temperature of 250 degrees. That is what the professor is warning us about. And for those of you that have bought the propaganda that CO2 cannot kill us, please revisit your grade school lessons and relearn how oxygen is made from a healthy planet. Now here's another chart from the EPA that details how we are creating all this CO2. Electricity, heat, 25%, agriculture, forestry, 24%, industry, 21%, transportation, 14%. This means our whole lifestyle, how we live, is the actual problem. Everything that we create takes industry and electricity and transportation to sell you the goods, to move the goods. Our cell phones require electricity, they require industry, they require transportation to put it in your hands. Our TVs, same thing. Takes a lot of electricity, a lot of industry to build it, and then transportation to put it in your hands. Even a blender is costly to the environment. Everything that you put in your household causes a problem to the environment because it requires a lot of electricity, a lot of industry, and transportation to build those products. Does this mean that the middle class lifestyle is killing the planet? Well, yes, it does. And that's the hard fact to swallow that we just do not want to acknowledge. But it is the truth, and I can explain it to you this way. Here's a video of air travel between the United States and Europe, the two dominant players with middle class incomes. 80% of our travel is for luxury. This is not business travel. This is the middle class taking vacations, flying back and forth between the United States, Europe, and occasionally China. But if you look at the other countries, there's not a lot of air travel occurring because they're not middle class and they don't have the money. Now we compound our CO2 problem with planned obsolescence. We build cheap products that are designed not to last, that break. In the technology sector, we're always having to update. Now, there's a reason for this, and it has to do with banking, because banking is behind everything. Banking is a debt structure. It's not a money cash structure, it's a debt structure. So our corporations are heavily financed. Our government is heavily financed. Now, because the corporation is heavily financed, they have to keep the money flowing to pay off the interest. So they have to build cheap products that break, so you have to buy a new one next year or the following year so they can keep the money flowing. If you're a technology company, you make your software obsolete and outdated and you come out with a new version. And why do you come out with a new version? To keep the money flowing so you can pay the bankers off. That's a vicious cycle that will burn through Earth's resources. That is what capitalism is. That's what capitalism does. Capitalism is a system of paying the bankers back. Period. We are marketed to over and over all day long to put us in debt to buy the material that breaks, that needs to be updated, that doesn't last, and then everybody has to have it. We sit there and we try to sell one of everything to everybody that is designed to break or become obsolete. Well, Earth is not liking that program. Earth is not liking that program at all. Does this mean that any corporation that builds a product is contributing to CO2? Well, yes, that's exactly what it means. You build a toothpick, that is electricity, that is industry, and it takes transportation. You build a plastic spoon, that is industry, that is transportation. It doesn't matter because it's a web to get the products out to the consumer. The whole web is dirty. Each step along the way harms Earth. And yet these corporations think that they're still a growth industry, like they have somewhere to grow. There's nowhere to grow when Earth is a Venus-like planet. There's no one left to sell the crap to. Everything must change. Our leaders have negotiated a very bad deal to save Earth because these categories must go to zero emissions. Electricity, industry, the way we make things, transportation, our whole middle-class lifestyle that is destroying the planet must be changed. Our leaders are putting band-aids on these issues. They believe that capitalism and free markets can still expand prosperity. Well, I got some general numbers. There's a lot of different numbers out there, so these are close enough. They're not exact, but they're good enough to explain something that every human must understand. The world population, 1%, are extremely wealthy. 10% are very well off. 20% of the world is middle class. But 70 to 80% of the world population makes less than $10 a day. The question is this: how can we take the 20% of middle class, the middle class lifestyle of consumerism that is destroying the planet, and expand it into the 70 to 80% that makes less than $10 a day? How is that possible? That the prosperity of the middle class, the consumerism of buying cell phones, TVs, cars, jet skis, golf clubs, tennis rackets, golf balls, expand into the rest of the population? Well, it can't. We are approaching 10 billion people very quickly. We cannot build one of everything for everybody and keep Earth in a healthy state. You see, this is why capitalism is a dead system. It's not sustainable. It must be completely reformatted, or it will kill all humans and the planet by burning through Earth's resources. If we cannot build one of everything for 7.5 billion people, then obviously we can't build one of everything for 10 billion people. It's impossible without destroying Earth. It's a simple, common sense, no brainer if you just look at the facts. And it helps to look at reality and stop living the illusion that our media, politicians, and celebrities know how to fix the planet. Now you have to ask, why isn't CNN, CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox telling you the truth about global warming or the end of capitalism because it's unsustainable? Well, they're part of the corporate structure. They too owe money to the banks. They have to make their revenues from selling ads on their TV stations, their newscasts, so they can keep paying the bankers and the interest. So they're not going to deconstruct consumerism, advertising, marketing, because they're part of the system. What they've done is they've changed the greenhouse effect into this nice terminology of climate change. So now they can talk about climate change. They can talk about extreme drought, torrential rains, coastal flooding. Well, coastal floods and extreme rain and extreme drought are not the main issues. The main issue is the greenhouse effect. Why do you think that term was invented? The greenhouse effect of putting a layer over Earth that traps heat. Well, that layer is CO2, carbon dioxide, and natural gas. But you don't hear mainstream media reporting that anymore. They too want to keep the consumerism going. They want to keep the marketing going. They want to keep the ads going. Does this qualify CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, and Fox as fake news? Well, yeah. I mean, how can you trust somebody that doesn't tell you the complete truth, or waters it down, or sugarcoats it, so they can sell you an ad, a product, a new cell phone? The solution? Well, if you've been paying attention, you've realized that banking is the problem, the debt structure. Students must take out a loan, then they must take out a loan for a vehicle to get to work. It's slavery to money. America must return to our foundation. Our forefathers, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and John Adams, believed in printing and controlling their own money. They did not believe in borrowing money to run the government. If America can regain control and dismantle central banking, our Federal Reserve, we can create our own money and spend it into the economy directly without debt. Students can be educated without a loan. Isn't that what we want? A world of intelligent people? If American democracy regained control of money, we would spend it on clean technology that replaces the dirty technology, which would actually save technology for our kids. But that's not enough. We have to move to a resource-based economy that replaces capitalism. We have to move to a free world. We cannot keep financing Earth and her materials. We cannot repackage Earth and keep selling it over and over and over again without destroying her. Our dumb little jobs that are involved in money and industry can be replaced by automation. Automation has no labor. That makes materials and products free. We can share those products. That is what a resource-based economy is about. Now, I'm not going to spoon feed you, but the best example is the Venus Project by Jack Fresco. I encourage you to Google it and think and learn the principles for yourself, because you're not going to hear about a resource-based economy on major news media, or from our politicians, or from our celebrities, because they have a lot of money and they don't want to see it dismantled. But the idea is this, a quick example. Let's take jet skis. We do not need to build 1,000,000 jet skis that are parked in a garage that do nothing during the winter time. It is a waste of electricity, industry, transportation, and plastic and the materials of Earth. What we do is we build fewer of them and then put them down at the lake or the ocean, and if you want to go ride one and have a great day. This idea can be expanded to many products: golf clubs, tennis rackets, skis, snowboards, dirt bikes, fishing, boating. They become shareable items. This will allow us to stop burning through Earth's materials. And the biggest item that must be shared is our vehicles. We need to move away from the ownership mentality. We need to get away from the bankers that want to finance a vehicle every 5 years. We need to construct a community grid of automated electric vehicles that we share. So we're not parking all this metal and rubber in our garage or in a parking lot that sits outside of our work environment that does nothing all day long. Our transportation system is a waste of industry and electricity on a massive scale. GM and Ford are not growth industries if the planet wants to survive. We cannot build an electric vehicle for everybody. It costs too much electricity and industry. We have to set up a community grid that shares transportation. Sorry, Porsche, but your days are numbered, unless your corporation wants to continue destroying Earth. My fellow Americans, as you walk through your middle-class dream, try to be aware that every item you touch is harmful to Earth in our current systems of how we live. Maybe that extra awareness will help you realize some final truths. Humans suffer because we live a poor design of civilization that is based all around money. So, if we want to be happy and keep Earth happy also, we will have to move to a free world of clean automation that doesn't sell Earth and her resources to the highest bidder. And we will have to provide guaranteed incomes while we move to automation. That means we have to get control of money. Why is all this important? Well, there's only one reason.